8 months pregnant, I was waddling through the Saturday noise of Skylight Mall, half in love with a pretzel I hadn't bought yet, when I heard the one voice I had sworn I'd never hear again. "Look who finally figured out how to trap a man." Her words rang off the glass atrium. Heads turned. I turned last. Marjorie Lane, my ex-mother-in-law, stood by a boutique window, lacquered and lethal in pearl earrings that never moved when she smiled. That smile was on me now, like a spotlight made of knives. I felt my daughter flutter inside, a small kick against my ribs, the way you tap a friend's arm to say, "Don't." My hand went there by instinct, a shield. "I'm not trapping anyone," I heard myself say even as heat climbed my neck. The words sounded smaller than I wanted. The memory of her old verdict, barren, broken, hopeless, echoed between us, a ghost that still remembered my name. Marjorie's gaze slid to my belly, then up to my face. "Congratulations, Evelyn," she said, in the tone you use when you congratulate a storm for being wet. "Miracles do happen, I guess. Though in your case, I'd use a different word." She moved closer. People pretended not to watch and watched anyway. The fountain gurgled, scent of cinnamon bark and floor cleaner lacing the air. I tasted metal. "If you have something to say it," I said, brave on the surface. Inside, I was 19 again, standing in her kitchen, apologizing for crying. Marjorie's lips barely parted. "Some men," she murmured, "pay for what belongs to others. That's not motherhood, that's theft." It took a second for the blade to land, then it did. A roaring sound, like a car passing close. My breath thinned. She was calling my child a theft. She was saying my husband, now Noah, had been tricked by me. "I won't do this with you," I said. "Not here." "Oh, I think here is perfect," she said. "Did you tell him about the clinic, the tests?" She tilted her head. "No. That figures." The clinic. For a moment, the mall fell away and I was back in that sterile hallway 3 years ago, knotting the hem of my sweater while Seth, her son, my ex, texted under the fluorescents. The door had opened. The doctor had looked at me first, then at him, then at me again, the way people look when they decide they cannot afford mercy. "I'm sorry," he'd said, and Marjorie had put her hand on my shoulder, and later, when he wasn't in the room, she'd kept it there and whispered, "Some women just aren't meant to be mothers. It's not a sin, it's biology." My cheeks burned at the memory. I blinked it away and lifted my chin. "I don't owe you explanations," I said. "I don't owe you anything. Except perhaps a thank you," she said, "for letting my son go before you ruined his life completely." The next voice came from behind her, too familiar. "Mom, what are you?" Seth. He looked taller somehow, or maybe I had just remembered him wrong. His tie was loosened, the jacket thrown over one arm. A blonde woman stood beside him, lacquered the same way his mother was. She rested a proprietary hand on his sleeve. I saw the engagement ring before I saw her face. "Evelyn," he said, and my name didn't sound like mine anymore. "Congratulations." My throat worked. "On what?" I asked, and immediately hated myself for the question. "On making it look easy," the blonde said, with a brightness that belonged in a toothpaste ad. "I'm Tessa." Of course she was. Marjorie clasped her hands. "We were just talking about old times," she said, "and how quickly people can change." Her eyes cut to my belly again. Apart from certain rules of nature, I could feel the circle closing, the mother, the son, the fiancé, like camera tripods tightening around a subject. A couple by the fountain stopped pretending. A security guard hovered 3 stores away, undecided. Noah's text buzzed in my pocket. "Parking now. Want anything?" I stared at the screen, my fingers numb. I wanted him. I wanted to lean my forehead against his shoulder, to breathe in that cedar soap he used and feel my pulse settle. I wanted not to be here. "You should go," Seth said, and for a heartbeat there was an old softness in his eyes that made something inside me crack. Then it was gone. "Mom, come on." But Marjorie wasn't finished. She reached into the smooth leather of her handbag and pulled out a folded paper, creased and recreased, the way you fold something when you need it to survive travel. She held it between 2 fingers so delicately it looked like a trick. "This," she said, "was inconvenient to stumble upon." She unfolded it, and even from where I stood, I recognized the clinic logo. I knew that font like I knew the shape of my own name. Westview Reproductive Medicine. "What is that?" I asked, though I already knew, and nausea rose sharp and chemical. "A copy," she said, almost sweetly, "of a test from a very reputable doctor, a test that explained so much." My heart hammered. In 3 years of grief, of Instagram announcements that felt like boulders, of avoiding the baby aisle in every store, no one had handed me a piece of paper and said, "This is the reason." They had handed me words instead: failure, fate, barren. Not data, not facts. "Of course," she continued, "a good mother-in-law protects the family. She doesn't let a fraud take root." Her smile slid over my face like oil. "I told Seth to leave you. Best thing he ever did." Something inside me, something long and patient, sat up. "Let me see it," I said. "No." She lifted the paper higher as if to sting me with it. "You had your turn." "Let me see it," I said again, and moved before I could stop myself. We both grabbed the page at once. The motion jolted her. The edge cut my thumb. Bright sting, bright bead of red. The paper crinkled but didn't tear. We froze, two women holding a small battlefield. "Evelyn," Seth said, alarm creeping into his voice. "Stop." It was Tessa, who broke the tableau by clearing her throat like a schoolteacher. "Seth, this is ridiculous." I stared at the header, Westview. My eyes skated, found the bolded word, male, found numbers beneath. Motility, morphology, a range of percentages that meant nothing until they did. My breath stopped. The world sharpened to a clean, cold point. Male. "Is this?" I started, and my voice came out thin. I swallowed. "Is this Seth's?" Marjorie's mouth tightened, not with guilt, but with calculation. For the first time, her eyes flicked, not at me, but at her son. It was a sliver of movement, almost nothing. Seth's jaw clicked. "Give that back," he said. I looked from him to the page and back again, connecting dots I'd been trained not to see. The old doctor's silence. The way the nurse hadn't met my eye. The day Seth had told me it wasn't my fault, and then never said it again. The phantom weight I had carried alone. The way Marjorie had pressed my hand and whispered biology. My stomach tightened beneath my dress. My daughter kicked once, a clear punctuation. I felt steadier than I had in years. "You told me it was me," I said to Seth. My voice was quiet now. The mall hushes for quiet voices. They sound like confessions or miracles. "You let your mother tell me I was broken." He dragged a hand over his mouth. "It was complicated." "No," I said. "It was simple." Tessa's fingers tightened on his arm. Her smile faltered, then reset itself. "This is none of our business," she said, but her eyes never left the word male, black and undeniable. "Give it back," Marjorie repeated, because repetition had always worked for her. The guard had edged closer now, pretending to check a store directory. People leaned into their own lives while trying to devour mine. I let go of the page. She wasn't expecting that, and it fluttered before she caught it. When she did, her hand trembled. A hairline crack through porcelain. "Congratulations, Evelyn," she said again, but the shape of the word had changed. She pronounced it like a sentence, not a greeting. "I don't need your congratulations," I said, "or your permission, or your lies." Behind me, the atrium doors whooshed open, and Noah jogged in, hair wind-tossed, holding a brown bag with 2 pretzels like a flag of ordinary life. He saw my face, then the small crowd, then the ringed circle of my past. Everything in him focused. He crossed to me fast, put the bag in my hands, touched my back with the gentlest pressure. "The cedar soap." The ground returned. "What's happening?" he asked quietly, looking at each face in turn, saving mine for last. Marjorie slid the paper into her bag with a movement that was meant to look casual and looked instead like hiding evidence. "We were just saying hello," she said, "and goodbye." Noah's eyes on me asked 100 questions. I answered the one that mattered. "Nothing we can't handle," I said. And for once, the words were true when I said them. Something had shifted and locked into place, a vertebrae clicking back into alignment. Marjorie tipped her head, pearls catching the light like teeth. "You can dress up a mistake," she said, "but it's still a mistake." I held her gaze. "Then you should be very careful how you dress yours," I said softly. "Some mistakes walk around wearing your last name." For a split second, surprise cracked her mask. Then the mask returned. Seth said my name again, but I didn't look at him. My baby rolled, a slow planet. Noah's hand stayed steady at my spine. The security guard finally decided to intervene and approached with a professional smile. "Everything okay here?" "Perfect," I said. "We were just leaving." We turned away. I could feel Marjorie's stare between my shoulders like cold weather. At the edge of the crowd, a woman I didn't know, late 50s, nurse's scrubs under a cardigan, touched my elbow as I passed. Her voice was a whisper meant only for me. "Westview keeps copies," she said. Ask for Dr. Ames, he remembers. She was gone before I could ask more, absorbed into bodies, into Saturday. The information hung in the air like a thread dangling from a sweater. I had pulled one stitch, the rest would come. Noah and I stepped into the rush of sun outside. I bit into the pretzel to keep from shaking. Salt popped on my tongue. My daughter turned, restless, as if even she knew something had finally begun to move. Behind us, inside the glass, a reflection bloomed and then resolved into Marjorie's profile, hard and pale. Her hand was on her bag. Even in reflection, I could almost see the crease of the folded paper, the proof she had tried to smuggle across the years. I didn't need to see it again to know one thing with bone-deep certainty. The story I'd been told about myself was wrong, and I was done living inside it. There are 100 ways a truth can come to light. Sometimes it walks through the door with pretzels. Sometimes it peels away from a handbag like a molt. Sometimes it waits in a file room with a doctor's name on the door. I didn't know yet which one would choose me. I only knew I would knock until something opened. And if they wouldn't open, I would learn how to pick locks. Because this wasn't just about a test or a paper or a word like male stamped in bold. This was about the years they took from me. The night I lay on the bathroom floor and made peace with a future I didn't choose. The mornings I smiled at other people's miracles and told myself I wasn't bitter. The family I had now, the tiny heartbeat inside me that twitched at loud voices and steadied at Noah's touch. This was about me, and the parts of me they had misnamed. I laced my fingers with Noah's and squeezed. He squeezed back. The sun was high. The glass of the atrium made the mall look underwater. We kept walking, but as we reached the crosswalk, my phone buzzed again. An unknown number. I would have ignored it, another spam call, if not for the subject line that flashed on my screen as the voicemail transcript loaded. Westview Records. Relab access. I stared at it, heart thudding. Noah saw my face and stopped. Ev? Give me a second, I said, thumb hovering over the message icon, breath snagging in my chest. I think someone just opened a door. I played the voicemail in the car with the air conditioning blasting cold across my hot face. Noah angled the vents toward me and watched the road like it was personally responsible for my blood pressure. Miss Hale, a careful voice said. This is Danny from Westview Records. Dr. Ames asked me to reach out. If you'd like to request copies of your file, we can accommodate. Due to prior access flags, we'll need you to come in with ID. We're here until 5. Prior access flags. I pressed the phone to my belly for a second, the way people put seashells to their ears. My daughter rolled as if approving. Noah tapped the steering wheel. Do you want me to drive there now? He asked. Yes. Seat back a little. Breathe. I'm breathing, I said, even as my lungs remembered a different waiting room, a different drive, a different set of hands that didn't know what to do with me. We got stuck behind a delivery truck lugging someone else's furniture. The world sweated. A song I loved last year played on the radio and sounded like it belonged to someone else's life. I looked at the buildings flicking by, glass and brick, and the shameless bloom of summer hydrangeas climbing a fence. I tried to anchor to what was good. The small kicks. Noah's one-handed driving, steady, careful. The pretzel grease on the brown bag between us, ordinary and perfect. He glanced over. You're quiet. I used to be good at quiet, I said. It made me easy to live with. Good news, he said. I'm terrible at quiet. I huffed a laugh, then looked out again. The word male kept blinking in my head like a neon sign that had been broken for years and suddenly found a current. When Seth and I had first met, we'd been good at everything but the truth. We were college sweethearts who never learned how to fight without offering ourselves up as collateral. He worked in commercial real estate. I taught fourth graders to write complete sentences and to stop erasing holes into the page. When we started trying for a baby, I had bought a plant and named it after a month we loved. When the plant died, we told ourselves it was a metaphor for something else. Marjorie had been polite in the beginning, the terrifying kind of polite, like a museum room with velvet ropes around nothing. After a year of negative tests, polite had curdled. Doctors were involved, schedules, timers, the fatigue of keeping hope on a leash. Seth got quieter, I got softer, wore my edges down until I could slip under doors. I let their version of me stake a claim, faulty, less than, the woman who breaks a lineage. I swallowed it, sharpened a smile against it, and called it humility. Then the day at Westview. The blood test. The nurse's too bright tone. The doctor who stood with his hands in his pockets, like he needed to hold on to something. He had said we could try other options. He had said it wasn't anybody's fault. Later in the car, Seth had cried without making any sound. I had stared at my hands. It had felt like the end of something that hadn't known it was ending. That night, Marjorie had poured tea and told me biology didn't negotiate. She had said dear and not your fault and realistic in a voice that felt like a locked door. Noah turned onto Westview's street. New condos had sprung up like mushrooms, the expensive kind, with names. The clinic still sat quiet behind a row of maple trees, the same brick, the same sign. My throat tightened. I had imagined never coming back. Turns out there are places you leave that still have your shadow in the lobby. He parked. We don't have to do this today, he said. I do. I said and unbuckled. The lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and something sweet beneath it. Danny from Records wasn't a voice. She was a 20-something with a nose ring and forearms strong from lifting boxes. She looked at my belly, then at my face, not hungry for a story, just asking if I was okay. I'm okay, I lied. She checked my ID. There's a notation, she said, and her tone shifted to the neutral of people who know they are being recorded. Your file has had outside access requested. Denied. Twice. By who? She clicked. Requester names are masked. The reason code references a family representative. I'll get Dr. Ames. We sat. The chairs were softer than I remembered. Noah's knee bounced. I put my hand on it. It stilled. Dr. Ames came in like the same season returning after a hard year. He was older, gray hair domesticating the black, crow's feet mapping a life of bad news delivered gently. He reached out, and when I stood, he surprised me by not touching my shoulder like I might break. Evelyn, he said. I remember you. I swallowed. You said you keep copies. We do, and there were access requests. His eyes flicked to Danny, who took that as a dismissal and melted away behind the counter. He sat across from us. I'll be direct, he said. After your last visit, someone attempted to audit your chart. Twice. Both times they supplied insufficient authorization. Who? A name appears on the internal log, he said. A Mrs. Lane, attached to your husband's insurance at the time. That's not unusual, given some parents act as advocates. But the authorization we require is specific. We did not grant access. The room tilted. Marjorie had tried to get in. I pictured her standing exactly where I was sitting, behind that desk, voice going smooth and cold. I pictured her smile when she failed. I remembered the paper in her purse, creased from being carried like a talisman. Then how did she have a copy? I asked. She showed me something today in a mall. Your logo, test results, mail. He was quiet for a breath. Then it did not come from us, or it did years ago, and she kept it. Years ago we weren't given anything. You were given a summary, he said. Not the raw labs, that was part of the problem. We changed that policy later. He paused. I'm sorry. All the air felt used. I leaned forward. Was it him? I asked because I needed someone to say it out loud so I could stop feeling like I was inventing a new past. Dr. Ames folded his hands. We ran semen analysis on Mr. Lane, he said carefully. His counts were significant outliers. Morphology was severely affected. We recommended urology follow-up. This is not a value judgment. It is a medical fact. Noah's hand found mine and held on. I let my head drop for a second. My daughter shifted, a warm tide. I'd like copies, I said. He nodded. We'll prepare the full chart. There's also a notation from a phone call placed after your final appointment. A voice, male, requested that we send any correspondence to a P.O. box instead of your home. We declined, but the note is there. A P.O. box, I repeated. Seth? I can't speculate whose voice it was, he said. What about the prior access flags? Noah asked. Is there a way to see who else tried? Ames frowned. The masked names are an administrative frustration. Danny can print the log with timestamps. If you wanted to pursue it legally, a subpoena could unmask them. He stood. Give us 15 minutes to assemble your packet. Danny will call you when it's ready. You can wait here, or... I'll wait, I said too fast. If I leave, I'll convince myself I dreamed this. He gave a small smile and went to the back. Noah leaned closer. I'm proud of you, he whispered. I let those words be a blanket for a moment. Then I looked up at the framed poster of a watercolor baby foot on the wall and felt the old grief flare. Smaller now, but not gone. It had been a house I'd lived in. You don't walk out clean. Back then, I had broken a lot of small things. A mug, a routine, a promise I'd made to myself about never letting other people define me. I had let a woman who wasn't my mother tell me what I was. I had let a man who said he loved me let her. Noah rubbed my back and I breathed. In baby. Out trash. Danny reappeared with a file thick enough to hurt someone. We made you a full copy, she said, a little proud. Here's the access log, too. She lowered her voice. Look at the highlighted entries. The log looked like a long receipt. My name. Date stamps. Twice, 6 months apart, a Mrs. M. Lane, and a family advocate ID number that meant nothing to me. Denied. Denied. A third entry not highlighted snagged my eye. I frowned. The requester field was blank. The reason code read, continuity of care, external OB, access granted. What's this? I asked, pointing. Danny leaned in. That one is weird. It's from 18 months ago. Someone from an external OB practice asked for your labs. They provided a signed release form. I didn't sign anything, I said. Noah looked at me. 18 months ago, we just gotten engaged. Can I see the release? I asked, and my voice did a thing I recognized, sharp, the way you get when you know you've been made a fool of. Danny hesitated. Give me a second. She came back with a scanned copy and slid it across. My name in block letters, my address, my birth date, a signature that pretended to be mine but slanted wrong at the V. And beneath it, the recipient fax number stamped in the corner. An OB practice I'd never visited. I stared at the signature until it blurred. Somewhere down the hall, a printer whirred. My baby kicked, as if alarmed. Noah took a picture with his phone, then looked at me. We're going to be okay, he said. We'll figure this out. I nodded, but my mouth was dry. The fax number sat there like coordinates. Danny cleared her throat. There's one last thing, she said. Protocol is to call the requesting office and confirm receipt. There's a note of that call. She pointed. It says the woman who answered identified herself as Tessa. For a beat, I didn't understand. Then my brain did the ugly math. Tessa, my ex-husband's fiancée. 18 months ago. I folded the paper back onto the stack before I ripped it. I think, I said, and my voice was very calm, the kind of calm that keeps people from bleeding out. I need a copy of everything. And I need to know the exact date and time that call was made. Danny nodded, eyes sympathetic in a way that made me like her fiercely. It's all in there, she said. We stood. The file was heavy. Noah reached for it, and I let him take the weight. On our way out, my phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. We should talk. Tonight. Before he tells you his version. I stared at the screen until the letters steadied. Outside, the maples flicked their leaves in a wind I hadn't felt inside. Noah read the text over my shoulder. Do you want to answer? He asked. I looked up at the clinic sign, then down at my belly, then at the door where the past had nearly followed me out. My heart beat like a hand on a locked door. Yes, I said quietly, but not yet. I hit save. I put the phone face down in my bag, and when we stepped into the hot late afternoon, I understood something I hadn't let myself say out loud. This wasn't an accident. It was choreography, and I had just learned the first step. I didn't answer Tessa's message that afternoon. I carried it like a stone in my pocket, cold and heavy, pressing against my ribs with every breath. By evening, I sat at the kitchen table while Noah chopped vegetables with his deliberate, calming rhythm. The file from Westview lay open between us, its pages spilling evidence like confessions, numbers, charts, timestamps, a forged signature that mocked me every time my eyes slid across it. Noah glanced at me, then at the unopened message on my phone. You don't have to meet her, he said. I know. Then why are you staring at it like it's a puzzle you want to solve? Because it was, and puzzles had answers. I need to know why, I said finally. Why forge my name? Why pull my records? Why 18 months ago? He set down the knife, wiped his hands, and leaned across the table. Then let's bring her here. Neutral ground. I shook my head. If she forged my name, she won't walk into our house and hand me the truth. She'll keep performing. And you'll be safe in public? She's not stupid enough to do anything reckless. She wants me to know something. The question is, what does she gain from telling me before Seth does? My phone buzzed again. Another text. Tomorrow, noon. The Garden Cafe on 8th. If you don't come, you'll regret it. I showed it to him. He frowned. This feels like a trap. Maybe. Or maybe it's a door. He exhaled. Then I'm coming with you. I almost said yes, but something told me that if I brought Noah, Tessa would clam up, all sugar and empty air. Let me try first, I said. If it feels wrong, I walk. Noah studied me, then he nodded slowly. You don't walk, you run, and you call me. That night I couldn't sleep. My daughter turned restless under my ribs, as if she felt my nerves bleeding into her. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling fan. My mind kept circling back to that forged release, to the exact slant of the fake V, to the phone call where Tessa confirmed receipt. Why would she want Seth's infertility file? Why would she want me to know? At dawn, I sat with tea I didn't drink, scrolling through old emails. I found one from the year Seth and I divorced. Subject line, finalization. A single-line reply from him, it's for the best. No punctuation. No apology. No mention of the clinic, the tests, the truth. I thought of Marjorie at the mall, her pearls sharp against the light. She'd called my pregnancy theft. Maybe because if Seth couldn't give her grandchildren, she needed me to be the thief, not the truth. By noon, the cafe buzzed with weekday chatter. I chose a corner table under the trellis of vines. My heart banged hard enough to be mistaken for footsteps. Tessa arrived 5 minutes late, sunglasses swallowing her face. She looked expensive, polished, as if she'd rehearsed for this meeting. She slid into the chair across from me, ordered sparkling water without asking, then leaned forward with a smile too bright for shade. You came, she said. You forged my name. I replied. Her smile faltered. Straight to business, I like that. I didn't return the smile. Why? She tilted her head, studying me. Because you deserve to know, and because he won't tell you himself. You mean Seth? Who else? I waited. She lowered her sunglasses. Her eyes were a startling pale gray, flat as a winter sky. He lied to you. He lied to me too. Different lies, same root. She tapped the table. He told me your marriage ended because you couldn't give him children. That he'd tried everything with you, poor man. That his mother had begged him to move on. The old script, the one I knew by heart. Then why the records, I asked. Because I didn't believe him. He's too convenient in his stories. So I dug. I found out about Westview. I knew there had to be proof, and there it was. Mail. She smiled again, but this one had edges. It turns out I wasn't the first woman he built lies around. I stared. So you stole my records to prove your fiancé is infertile? She didn't flinch. Wouldn't you? I thought of Noah, of his open face, of the way he carried truth like it was a habit, not a performance. Would I forge signatures? Would I betray another woman to protect myself? No, I said flatly. Her expression cooled. Then you're softer than I thought. I let the silence stretch. Around us, forks clinked, someone laughed too loud, a waiter scribbled orders. The world moved on, unaware we were dissecting years of lies at a wrought iron table. What do you want from me? I asked. Nothing. Just remember this conversation when things collapse. When what collapses? She leaned closer. He's not going to marry me, Evelyn. Not really. He's stringing me along, same as he strung you. But you've already escaped. You have the family he can't give. Sooner or later, he'll try to claw back what he lost. Be ready. Her words lodged in me, jagged. I wanted to say she was wrong, that Seth was her problem now, not mine. But the forged paper in my bag burned like evidence. Why warn me? I asked. Tessa sat back, slipping on her sunglasses again. Because you're the only person who'll believe me when it happens, and when it does, you'll want me on your side. She stood, tossed a 10 on the table, and left without waiting for change. I sat frozen, hands on my belly, listening to my baby's steady kicks like Morse code. When I finally picked up my phone, another message waited. He's already planning something. Ask him about the inheritance. Tinheritance. My throat went dry. I thought of Marjorie's pearls, her perfectly rehearsed cruelty, the paper she'd carried like a weapon. Of Seth's eyes in the mall, flicking to the test, jaw tight. Of doors I thought were closed, creaking open again. I whispered to my daughter, so low no one else could hear. We're not done yet, are we? Her foot pressed back, strong, certain. For the first time in years, I felt it too. I didn't answer Tessa that night. I set my phone face down and let the screen go dark, like closing a door on a room that still smelled like someone else's perfume. But the word she left me wouldn't leave. Inheritance. It walked with me through every room, tapped the back of my teeth when I tried to swallow. It followed me to bed and lay between Noah and me like a third body. By morning, my feet were swollen, the way they get when the weather and my nerves conspire. Noah helped me into sneakers and tied the laces with a patience that made my throat ache. "You sure you want to teach today?" he asked. "I need the noise," I said. 9-year-olds don't leave you any space to catastrophize. He kissed my forehead. "Text me if anything feels off." At school, I clicked through lesson plans and let fractions and fables be my refuge. The kids argued over whether foxes were clever or cruel. I told them the complicated truth. Sometimes they're both. At lunch, I sat in the empty classroom and stared at the stack of Westview copies in my tote like they might catch fire. I tried to picture a version of this week where none of this was happening. The picture wouldn't hold. My phone buzzed at 1:40. Unknown number. "We need to talk." My office. 3 p.m. "Don't bring your husband." It wasn't a request. I stared at the message until my vision doubled. Then I texted Noah. "Meeting an old ghost at 3. Public place. I'll ping you when I get there." He sent back a single check mark, then a heart. It steadied me more than a paragraph would have. Seth's office sat 10 floors up in a glass box that pretended not to be part of the city. When I arrived, the receptionist gave me a smile that had eye roll baked into it. She buzzed him without asking my name. He came out fast, like he'd been watching the elevator. "Ev," he said, and the nickname hit me in the sternum like a thrown stone. "Thanks for coming." He'd chosen a conference room with an obscene view of the river. He didn't offer water. He closed the door and didn't sit. "I'm going to keep this simple," he said. "I know you met my fiancée." "Tessa," I said lightly. "Hard to miss her. She leaves a watermark." His jaw tightened. "She's dramatic. She's upset. She may have exaggerated." "Which part?" I asked. "The forged authorization? Or the part where she has my medical records?" He let out a breath. "This is exactly why I didn't want to do this here." "Do what?" He reached into a folder and slid a document across the table toward me. A single-page, thick paper, the kind you use when you need to convince people that lies are heavy. Acknowledgement of paternity. My name was printed where it shouldn't be. A blank line waited for my signature. Another blank line waited for his. I didn't touch it. "You've lost your mind. I'm protecting us," he said, which meant he was protecting himself. "There's a trust. It was established by my grandfather, not my mother. It predates all of this. I didn't even know the details until last year." He sat then finally like the story weighed too much to tell standing up. He glanced at the door once, as if Marjorie might apparate if he said the wrong thing. "The trust transfers controlling voting rights of Lane properties when the first direct grandchild is born. If there's no grandchild by my 35th birthday, those rights revert to my uncle. My mother will lose the board, the house, everything that keeps the family from tearing itself apart. She's held it together all these years. You know what my uncle is like." "I know what your mother is like," I said, his mouth twisted. "Ev, listen. I'm not asking for custody. I'm not asking you to change anything about your life. This is paperwork. It gives us the ability to align the timeline." "Align?" I said softly. "You mean forge?" He flinched. "It's a box check. Bureaucracy. We file an acknowledgement before the birth. We add the baby to the family registry. The trust triggers. My mother keeps her place. The company stays steady. No headlines, no drama. You want me to sign a paper saying my child, my daughter, is yours?" My voice didn't rise, but the room seemed to tilt around it. "You want me to lie to the state to save your mother's pearls?" His eyes flashed. "It's not about pearls. It's about stability. It's about legacy. This isn't a scam. It's a workaround. My lawyer drafted it. It's airtight." I laughed, and it surprised both of us. "Your lawyer also thought it was a good idea to fax my medical records to your girlfriend." He winced. "That was not my lawyer." "No," I said. "That was your life." He rubbed his eyes. "Ev, please, if you sign, you'll never hear from us again. We'll make a donation to your school. We'll set up a college fund for—" He caught himself, swallowed the name he didn't get to say. "For the baby." Anger rose in me like clean heat. Not messy. Not all over the place. Focused. "Her name is not yours to imagine," I said, "and she is not your key to a vault." He reached across the table. I leaned back. His hand fell useless against the glass. "Think about it," he said. "The deadline is in 3 weeks. If we don't file by then, Marjorie loses everything. She's dangerous," I said, "and this is how she stays that way." He bristled. "You think you know her?" "I do," I said. "I know what she whispered when no one else was listening." He looked at the blank lines again. You don't have to like it, you just have to sign. If you do, nobody has to know anything. I know, I said. Noah knows. My daughter will know, because I'll have to tell her why her birth certificate is a lie. His mouth flattened. Birth certificate is separate, he said, quick. This acknowledgement does not. I stood. He stood too, like we were still choreographed to the same music. My heart thudded once, hard, and my daughter pushed back, a small fist against my belly, as if to say, no. I'm not signing, I said, and if you file anything on your own, I will burn down every lie you ever told. For a second I saw it. The boy I met at 19, the one who had kissed me in the parking lot of the hardware store because it smelled like pine. Then he was gone. The man in his place had edges that could cut. Don't make this ugly, he said. It's already ugly. You just wanted me to powder it. He swallowed. Then I have to do it another way. What way? I asked, knowing I wouldn't like the answer. Petition to establish paternity, he said, the words tasting like he'd practiced them. Emergency order for prenatal access to medical records. It looks bad, but it's procedural. We can withdraw after the trust triggers. You're going to take me to court, I said, to claim a child that isn't yours, to force a test you know you'll fail. He didn't blink. Courts don't test men who sign acknowledgements. They accept paperwork. They move on. If you won't help me make this clean, I'll make it messy. There it was, the real thing, not the soft lie, the hard one. I picked up my bag. Tell your mother I said hello, I said, and tell her to keep that little paper safe, the one that says mail. It's going to be very useful. He said my name, the real one, the whole thing. It didn't matter anymore. I walked past the receptionist who didn't bother to hide her curiosity and into the elevator that smelled like steel and lemon. My hands shook. My daughter rolled, then settled. I pressed my palm to the place she liked to tuck her feet and whispered, "We're okay." He smoked. Outside, the sky had turned the color of an old bruise. Thunder grumbled somewhere on the river. I texted Noah. He wants me to sign an acknowledgement. Deadline in 3 weeks. Trust triggers if a grandchild exists. I said no. He threatened court. 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then, come home. We'll call Alice. Alice was our neighbor lawyer who specialized in family law and happened to keep a baseball bat by her front door because she said it made her feel powerful. She answered on the first ring. Tell me everything, she said. And I did, the words tumbling like loose change. Okay, she said when I ran out. First, he can file whatever he wants. Doesn't mean a judge will grant it. Second, do not sign anything. Third, start a paper trail. Text him that you refuse to sign because he is not the biological father and you will oppose any petition. If he continues, we'll respond formally. I'll draft something tonight. What about the trust? I asked. I don't give legal advice on rich people's fairy tales, she said dryly. But if a company's control depends on a grandchild, they're about to get a lesson in due diligence. Her confidence slipped into my blood like sugar. I exhaled for what felt like the first time all day. When I got home, Noah had set a glass of water on every flat surface like a superstition. He took my bag, my shoes, my day. Sit, he said. Eat something. I ate grapes like they were medicine. The baby hiccuped and we both laughed, a small human sound in a day built from threats. Then the doorbell rang. We looked at each other. Not company hour, not neighbor hour. I opened the door to a woman in a blazer that was trying too hard to be friendly. She held a heavy envelope and a watch that said she didn't want to be here any longer than she had to. Evelyn Hale? She asked. Yes. She handed me the envelope. You've been served. The envelope sat on the kitchen table like an unwanted guest, fat with papers that smelled faintly of ink and threat. My hands shook when I slid it open. Noah stood behind me, one hand on my shoulder, the other braced against the chair as if he could hold me steady through muscle alone. Inside were the documents Seth had promised, a petition to establish paternity and a motion for temporary prenatal access to medical records. Pages of legal jargon that translated into one simple sentence. He wanted ownership of my daughter before she was even born. I read until the words blurred. Then I dropped the papers on the table as if they might burn me. He's actually doing this, I whispered. Noah's voice was low, dangerous in a way I hadn't heard before. Then we'll fight. We're not letting him rewrite her story. The baby rolled hard inside me, as if punctuating him with a fist. I pressed my palm against the movement, grounding myself in the reality that mattered most. She was mine. Ours. Not a loophole. Not a pawn. Alice arrived within the hour, her hair pulled back, her eyes sharp. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. She flipped through the petition, lips tightening. "This is aggressive," she said. "And sloppy. He's counting on intimidation, not merit." "Can he really force me into court before she's born?" I asked. "He can file anything he wants," Alice said. "But judges don't hand out prenatal access orders like candy. Courts are cautious with pregnant women, especially in your condition." She tapped the page. "We'll file a response. We'll assert that Noah is the legal spouse and presumptive father under state law." "That carries weight," Noah exhaled. "Good." Alice's gaze flicked between us. "But be prepared. He'll push. He'll spin this as a matter of family legacy, stability, inheritance. Judges can be swayed by narratives. We'll need evidence." I thought of the file from Westview, the bolded mail, the forged authorization, the note about the call with Tessa. Evidence. We had it. Alice looked at me. "Do you still have contact with the clinic?" "Yes." "Good. We'll subpoena records if necessary, and we'll line up a witness who can testify about the forgery. That nurse you mentioned, what was her name?" "I don't know. She just whispered, then disappeared." Alice scribbled notes. "We'll find her." I felt steadier with each of her words, like bricks stacking under me. Until she said, "The first hearing is in 10 days. 10 days. I'd be 34 weeks pregnant, round and slow, hauling myself into a courtroom while Seth paraded lies in front of a judge. My throat closed. Noah squeezed my hand. "We'll get through it." Alice nodded. "We will. But you need to prepare yourself. Seth isn't playing by rules. He's weaponizing family law to cover a financial deadline. That makes him dangerous." Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, frowned, and showed me a blocked number, voicemail transcription loading. It was only 4 words. "She's not safe alone." The room went still. "Who sent that?" Noah asked. Alice replayed the voicemail. A woman's voice, distorted, urgent. The same words, "She's not safe alone." My skin prickled. "Tessa, or someone else?" Alice looked at me carefully. "Do you feel threatened physically?" I shook my head. "Not yet." "Then we assume it's a scare tactic," she said briskly. "But you don't go anywhere by yourself until this is resolved." When Alice left, the apartment felt too small for Noah's anger. He paced the kitchen, fists clenched, jaw tight. "I can't just sit here," he said. "He's stalking you. He's dragging you into court pregnant. Maybe it's time I went to him directly." "Noah." My voice cut sharper than I intended. His eyes flared. "What if he pushes harder? What if he—" "Then we answer harder," I said, standing despite the weight in my legs. "But not like that. If you go to him, that's the story they'll sell. Unstable husband, violent protector, desperate to hide the truth. That's what they want." He dragged a hand through his hair. "I can't watch you get attacked and do nothing." "You're not doing nothing," I whispered. I took his fists in my hands, forced them open, placed them against my belly. Our daughter kicked once, firm and clear. "You're here. You're steady. You're the reason I can walk into court instead of collapsing in a corner. That's not nothing, that's everything." His eyes softened, wet at the edges. He pressed his forehead to mine. "Then I'll be steady. For both of you." And in that moment, I knew. The family I'd lost had nothing on the one I had now. That night, sleep refused me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the petition stamped with the court seal. I saw Seth's signature, bold as if he believed paper could erase biology. I saw Marjorie's pearls glinting like teeth in the dark. At 2 a.m., I padded into the nursery Noah had been building. Soft paint, tiny crib, stuffed animals with tags still attached. I sat in the rocking chair and let my hand rest on my belly. "She's ours," I whispered to the room, to the night, to the child who would one day ask questions. "No paper changes that." The baby shifted, a slow tide against my ribs. I let the rhythm rock me until my eyes burned with tiredness. The next morning, as I pulled myself together for work, another envelope slid under our door. No knock, no bell, just paper sliding against wood. Inside was a photocopy of the same lab result Marjorie had shown me at the mall. But this time, a sentence had been scrawled across the margin in sharp, deliberate pen. "Truth always surfaces." And underneath, a single initial, T. By the 6th morning after being served, I'd begun to expect the envelopes. Each sunrise felt like an opening act. Shower, breakfast, dread. Some days it was thick legal paper. Other days, anonymous notes slipped under the door like whispers made physical. The last one hadn't even been sealed, just a single word scrawled across a half sheet of copy paper. Liar. Alice bagged it in a plastic sleeve. Don't throw them out, she'd said. We build a pattern. Judges don't like intimidation tactics. But intimidation was working. My pulse lived in my throat. Every creak of the apartment made me check the locks twice. Noah started walking me to school, dropping me off at the front like I was 9 years old, kissing me hard enough that colleagues pretended not to notice. Still, the day of the hearing loomed. At dinner, Noah read the prep notes aloud while I stared at my plate of pasta. We'll argue presumptive fatherhood. We'll submit the forged authorization as evidence of fraudulent intent. We'll call Dr. Ames if necessary. Alice thinks the judge will dismiss his petition outright. Unless he spins it, I said. He can spin, Noah said, but we have the facts. I wanted to believe him, but facts hadn't saved me before. That night, I dreamed of the clinic again, the sterile halls, the hum of fluorescent lights. In the dream, the doctor's mouth moved, but no sound came. Then Marjorie appeared in the doorway, pearls glowing, whispering one word over and over. Biology. I woke gasping. Noah's hand steadied me. It's just a dream. But when I went to the window, a car idled across the street. Black, tinted windows, lights off. I watched until my eyes burned. Finally, it pulled away. 2 days before the hearing, Alice called. You need to sit down. I sat on the edge of the crib. The court clerk called me, she said. Seth's team just filed a supplemental exhibit, a signed letter from an OB practice confirming you authorized release of your records. My forged signature. Yes, we'll attack it as fraudulent, but here's the kicker. The notary stamp is real. My stomach flipped. How? They found someone willing to backdate. We'll argue tampering, but it muddies the water. Noah grabbed the phone. So what do? We get louder, Alice said. We bring in Westview, Ames, the full file. We prove the pattern of deceit. And Evelyn. Her tone softened. This is about discrediting them, not you. You've done nothing wrong. I thanked her, hung up, then sat in silence, the crib pressing against my thighs. My daughter shifted, a small roll like she was restless in her own dark room. I whispered, We're almost there. The next morning, I made it halfway to school before noticing the man. Baseball cap, gray hoodie, standing at the corner too still to be casual. He watched me until the crossing light changed. I clutched my belly and walked faster. That night, another envelope, no handwriting this time, just a photograph. Me, taken that morning. Belly round under my coat, face turned toward the school gates. I dropped it like it had teeth. Noah cursed under his breath, pacing. This is stalking. We call the police, Alice agreed. File a report. Even if they don't act, it creates a record. Judges pay attention when mothers-to-be are being followed. So we did. A polite officer nodded, took notes, promised to keep an eye on the neighborhood. It felt thin like tissue paper against a storm. That night, I sat awake again in the nursery, rocking slowly, phone in my lap. At midnight, it buzzed, a text. He doesn't deserve to win. Meet me. Tomorrow, 10 p.m., same cafe. I stared until my eyes blurred. Noah found me there. He read the message and frowned. It's bait. Or it's evidence. He rubbed his face. Ev, you're 8 months pregnant. We don't sneak into midnight meetings like we're in a spy movie. I'm not sneaking, I said. I'm fighting. His hands cupped my face, steady. Then we do it smart. If you go, you don't go alone. We make it controlled. The baby kicked, sharp, insistent, like she knew the word inheritance was more than money now. It was survival. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't just fighting to clear my name. I was fighting to make sure my daughter's first breath wasn't shadowed by Seth's lies. I texted back one word. Yes. The cafe looked different at night. Shadows draped the trellis, the fairy lights overhead blinking like they couldn't decide if they wanted to stay lit. A few late couples lingered, bent close over desserts. I chose the same corner table as last time, my back to the wall, my belly heavy and restless. At 10 sharp, Tessa arrived. No sunglasses this time. Her hair was tied back, her face bare. She looked smaller than she had before, stripped of the sheen that had made her seem untouchable. She carried no purse, only her phone clutched in one hand like a lifeline. You came, she said, sliding into the chair across from me. You asked. She glanced around, lowered her voice. He's unraveling. You know that, right? I held her gaze. He's filing lawsuits. That doesn't look like unraveling. That looks like strategy. Her mouth twisted. Strategy until it's not. He hasn't told you everything. I waited. Tessa leaned forward. The inheritance? It's not just about the company. The trust isn't money in an account. It's shares. Control. If Seth doesn't produce a grandchild, his uncle inherits everything. And his uncle, let's just say he's not the kind of man who lets people walk away clean. Especially women. Her fingers shook against her water glass. She wasn't performing this time. She was afraid. Why tell me this? I asked. Because you're not the only one he lied to. She swallowed. He told me you were barren, that he'd done everything to save the marriage, but you couldn't give him a child. He told me I was his second chance. But when I found that lab report, her voice cracked. I knew. He'd been playing us both, his mother too. I thought of Marjorie clutching that folded paper like it was gospel, her pearls catching light like teeth. She knows, I said. She knows, and she covers for him. Tessa whispered. Because if the truth comes out, the family name goes with it. They'd rather burn you down than admit he can't carry it forward. The baby shifted under my ribs, slow and insistent. I pressed my hand there, grounding myself. What do you want from me? I asked. Nothing. Her eyes met mine, raw. I want out, but if I walk away, they'll come after me. You've seen how far they'll go. The forged papers, the stalking. It's not about you anymore. It's about anyone who threatens their story. I let the silence stretch. So why meet me? Because you need proof. More than the lab report. More than your word. I can give it to you. My pulse kicked. What proof? She reached into her jacket pocket and slid a flash drive across the table. Small, harmless looking. I copied emails from Seth's laptop, drafts he wrote to his lawyer about the paternity petition. He admits the child isn't his. He calls it a procedural necessity to protect the trust. The world tilted. My throat tightened. You're sure? She nodded. I printed one, in case you don't trust me. She unfolded a sheet of paper and pushed it toward me. I read the words, my hands trembling. We'll file acknowledgement paperwork regardless of biological fact. Court won't dig deeper if we frame it as inheritance stability. I pressed the page flat against the table. For the first time in weeks, I felt something sharp and steady inside me. Power. You realize, I said carefully, if I bring this to court, he's finished. Her eyes glistened. That's the point. We sat in silence, two women who'd been spun into the same web by the same man. Different lies, same root. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and all color drained from her face. She shoved it toward me. A text from an unknown number. We see you. Walk away now, or you'll regret it. Her hands trembled. She bit her lip, then looked at me with something like panic. You don't know them like I do, she whispered. They'll bury anyone who stands in the way. I studied her face. For the first time I saw the crack, fear mixed with something else. Not just fear of them, fear of being caught between us. You're scared of losing him, I said quietly. She blinked. What? You still love him, I said. Even now, even after the lies, part of you wants to save him. She flinched, then covered it with a brittle laugh. Love doesn't survive this. But her eyes said otherwise. I folded the email, slid the flash drive into my bag. Then you'll have to choose, him or the truth. She stared at me, silent. I stood, heavy and steady, and the baby kicked once, hard, like punctuation. Tessa rose too, shaking. Be careful, please. You think you know how ugly this can get, but you don't. Then show me, I said. She stared at me, then nodded once, sharp. Tomorrow, noon, meet me at the old courthouse steps. I'll bring everything. Before I could answer, she slipped out into the dark, swallowed by the night like smoke. I sat back down, hand on my belly, the flash drive warm in my bag. Somewhere in the shadows outside, a car engine started. And I knew with bone-deep certainty, the storm hadn't peaked yet. It was just gathering. The old courthouse sat at the edge of downtown, a stone relic surrounded by glass towers that made it look smaller than it had ever been. Its steps were cracked, the columns stained with decades of rain. Noon sunlight spilled hard and unforgiving across the marble. I stood there, one hand cradling my belly, the other clutching my bag with the flash drive inside. Every car that passed made my pulse climb. Every shadow stretched too long. Noah had begged me not to come alone. Alice had texted 3 times. Stay home, let me subpoena it properly. But I couldn't. If Tessa really had the evidence she promised, it could end this. Not in 10 days, not in court, but now. I checked my watch, 12:05. No sign of her. By 12:15, sweat collected at my temples. My daughter shifted, restless as if she too sensed the air was wrong. I whispered, "We'll give her 5 more minutes." At 12:18, my phone buzzed. A text from Tessa's number. "I'm here. Back entrance. Come alone." My stomach clenched. I scanned the front steps. Nothing. Just pigeons scattering in the sun. I circled the building, heels of my flats clicking against broken pavement. The alley behind the courthouse was narrow, lined with dumpsters and graffiti. The back door was heavy metal, paint peeling. It stood ajar. I hesitated. "Tessa?" No answer. I pushed the door open, the hinges groaning. Inside, the hallway smelled of dust and old paper. Light slanted through broken windows. I followed the echo of my own steps until I saw it, something on the floor ahead. A folder. I bent slowly, heart hammering, and picked it up. Inside were papers, emails printed in color, some stamped confidential. Tessa's promise. Proof. But there was something else. A photograph. Of me. Sitting at the cafe last night. Tessa across from me. Both of us circled in red ink. My blood ran cold. Behind me the door slammed shut. I spun, heart in my throat. Marjorie stood in the doorway, pearls gleaming even in the dust, her smile sharp as glass. "Well," she said, stepping forward, "isn't this cozy?" I clutched the folder against my chest. "Where's Tessa?" Her smile widened. "Tessa is reconsidering her loyalties. She gave me this," I said, holding up the folder. "It's over. The emails prove everything." Marjorie's laugh was low, deliberate. "Do you think a judge will take the word of a bitter ex-girlfriend and a desperate woman over the Lane family?" She tilted her head. "Evidence can vanish. Witnesses change their minds. But paper trails? Paper trails are dangerous. You shouldn't be holding that." The baby kicked hard, a jolt that steadied me more than it startled. I lifted my chin. "You spent years convincing me I was broken. You whispered biology like a curse, and now you want me to lie to save your empire. I won't." Her eyes narrowed. "You think this is about an empire? This is about survival. My son will not be humiliated. Our name will not be reduced to pity. You should be thanking me for offering you a place in something greater." "Greater?" My voice shook, but not from fear, from fury. "You wanted me erased. Now you want my child to be your heir. You can't have it both ways." She took a step closer. "If you don't cooperate, you'll regret it. We can make you regret it." I held her gaze. "Try." Her smile vanished. For the first time I saw it, the crack beneath the polish. Fear, raw and unmasked. Before she could answer, my phone buzzed. Another text. From Tessa. "Don't trust her. Meet me at the library, 10 minutes. I stared at it, then at Marjorie. She hadn't moved. She didn't know. I slid the phone back into my pocket, folder still tight against my chest. "You're done controlling me," I said softly. "You're done controlling him. And soon, you'll be done controlling anyone." Her jaw tightened, but she didn't stop me when I brushed past her, belly first toward the light spilling through the cracked windows. Outside, the sun felt hotter, brighter, as if the world itself was urging me to keep moving. But even as I stepped into the glare, I knew one thing with bone-deep certainty. This wasn't over. Not with Marjorie, not with Seth, and maybe not even with Tessa. The library sat quiet on the edge of the park, an old brick building with ivy clawing up its walls. Noon sun streamed through the tall windows, striping the marble floors with light. I stepped inside, clutching the folder, my daughter pressing against my ribs like she too was listening. Tessa was waiting in the far corner, her back to a stack of law journals. She looked different, no polish, no performance. Just a woman stripped bare, fear and resolve braided into her posture. "You came," she said softly. "You left me with Marjorie." Her mouth tightened. "That wasn't me. I was followed. I sent you the library text as soon as I got clear. Did she hurt you?" "No," I set the folder on the table. "But she's scared." "That's new." Tessa nodded. "Good. Scared people make mistakes." She pulled a second drive from her pocket, slid it to me. "Board minutes. Drafts Marjorie wrote to lawyers trying to erase your name from the Westview records. She knew from the beginning it wasn't you. She chose to bury it." The words sank like stones in my stomach. I thought of her hand on my shoulder in that sterile hallway years ago, whispering biology like a benediction. All the nights I believed I was broken because she wanted me to. "Why help me?" I asked. Her eyes flickered. "Because if they destroy you, I'm next. And because you're the only one who'll fight." I slipped the drive into my bag, feeling its weight. Proof. More than proof. Ammunition. and in that moment, something inside me shifted. The shame I'd carried like skin peeled away. I wasn't the barren woman whispered about in kitchens. I wasn't the mistake Seth had used as cover. I was a mother. I was a fighter. I was a woman who'd been lied to and finally had the receipts. "I'm done hiding," I said. My voice was steady. "At the hearing, I'm not just defending myself. I'm exposing them. All of them." Tessa searched my face, then gave a small, almost reverent nod. "Then you need to prepare, because they'll come harder now." I stood, hand pressed to my belly. "Let them." That evening, Noah spread the evidence across our dining table. The lab reports, the forged authorization, the emails. Alice sat with us, glasses perched low, eyes sharp as scalpels. "This isn't just defense anymore," she said. "This is offense. With these, we can file a counterclaim. Fraud, attempted coercion, abuse of process." Noah looked at me. "Are you ready for that?" I looked at my reflection in the window. Hair pulled back, eyes tired but fierce, belly round and proud. For the first time, I didn't see the woman they'd named Barren. I saw someone who had survived being buried alive and was climbing out with fire in her hands. "Yes," I said. "I want them in the light." Alice's smile was grim. "Then we'll burn their story to the ground." The night before the hearing, I stood alone in the bathroom, the mirror fogged from the shower. My reflection stared back, round belly, dark circles, eyes unflinching. For years I'd avoided this mirror, afraid of what I'd see: emptiness, failure, proof of every cruel word whispered at me. But now I lifted my chin. I placed both hands on my stomach and whispered, "Grace." The name filled the room, fragile but certain. I whispered it again, "Grace." It wasn't just a name, it was a declaration. She was real. She was mine. And no one, no paper, no judge, no dynasty, could erase that. My daughter shifted under my palms, as if answering to her name for the first time. My throat tightened, but the tears that came weren't grief. They were release. I looked into the mirror and for the first time in years didn't see what they'd told me I was. I saw who I had become. And I smiled. The next morning I woke before dawn. Instead of dread, I felt clarity. I dressed with purpose. Dark dress that framed my belly, hair pulled back, face bare but strong. Noah watched from the doorway, awe in his eyes. "You look like someone they can't touch," he whispered. "I am," I said. When we stepped into the courthouse for the hearing, the air shifted. Reporters lined the steps, cameras clicking. Someone had leaked. My name was in their mouths, my belly in their lenses. But instead of shrinking, I straightened. I let them see me. Inside, Seth sat with his lawyer, jaw clenched. Marjorie perched beside him, pearls blazing like armor. They looked like a dynasty. But I felt like something older, fiercer, a storm they hadn't counted on, and for the first time I smiled. Because I wasn't afraid anymore. Because I was ready. Because I knew when this was over, it wouldn't be my name in ruins. It would be theirs. The courtroom smelled faintly of wood polish and tension. Benches creaked under the weight of strangers, reporters, and too many whispers. The judge, a woman with sharp eyes and no patience, entered with the kind of authority that silenced even the murmurs. I sat at the respondent's table, my belly pressing against the edge, my hands steady on the file of evidence. Noah beside me, Alice at the helm. Across the aisle, Seth in a tailored suit that didn't hide the sweat on his temple, and Marjorie, immaculate in pearls that gleamed like small weapons. "Lane versus Hale," the clerk called. "Petition to establish paternity." The judge's gaze swept the room. "Mr. Lane, your petition claims biological relation to the unborn child of Mrs. Hale. Counsel, proceed." Seth's lawyer stood, slick and smooth. "Your Honor, this case is about continuity, stability, and truth. My client has a vested interest in ensuring his child, his legacy, is recognized before birth. We seek acknowledgement of paternity to secure medical access and to prepare for his parental responsibilities." I felt Noah tense beside me. Alice's hand tapped mine. "Wait." The judge turned to Alice. "Response?" Alice stood, calm as stone. "Your Honor, my client, Evelyn Hale, is married. Under state law, her husband, Noah Hale, is the presumptive father of her child. Mr. Lane's petition is not only meritless, it is fraudulent." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Seth shifted. Marjorie's smile didn't move. Alice placed a document on the bench. Exhibit A. Laboratory results from Westview Reproductive Medicine, confirming Mr. Lane's infertility. Results he and his mother concealed, allowing them to blame Mrs. Hale for years. They knew, they lied, and now they weaponized the courts to rewrite biology. The judge raised an eyebrow. You have the originals? Alice nodded. Certified copies. And Exhibit B, emails from Mr. Lane to his attorney, admitting this petition is a procedural ploy to trigger a family trust, regardless of biological fact. The courtroom erupted. Reporters scribbled like their pens were on fire. Seth's lawyer stammered, "Objection, fabricated." Alice overrode him, sliding the printed email across. Your Honor, metadata confirms authenticity. Further, Exhibit C, access logs from Westview showing multiple unauthorized attempts by Mrs. Lane to obtain confidential medical records. Exhibit D, a notarized authorization with my client's forged signature, accompanied by testimony from clinic staff who can attest she never signed it. The judge examined the papers, her expression hardening. This is serious. Alice nodded. Serious enough that we are filing a counterclaim for fraud, harassment, and abusive process. My client has endured stalking, intimidation, and public humiliation. She will not endure theft of her child. Marjorie finally spoke, her voice calm, cultured. Your Honor, these are bitter accusations from a woman who... The judge cut her off. You are not counsel. Sit down. For the first time, Marjorie faltered. Alice's voice sharpened. Your Honor, this is not about bitterness. It is about a woman who was told she was barren when she was not. About a man who let his mother define his failures. About an unborn child being targeted as a financial instrument. That is not law. That is cruelty dressed in paperwork. The judge looked at Seth. Do you deny writing these emails? His jaw tightened. Those were drafts. They don't represent. Answer the question. Yes, he snapped. Silence. Heavy. Final. The judge leaned back. Petition denied. Furthermore, based on the evidence presented, this court refers potential fraud and forgery to the district attorney's office for investigation. Mrs. Hale, you will have no further obligation to respond to these petitions. I exhaled so hard it felt like years leaving my lungs. Noah's hand wrapped around mine. The baby shifted, as if she, too, understood the victory. Reporters surged as the gavel struck. Marjorie hissed something to Seth, but the microphones caught it. You were supposed to be careful. Alice gathered the files with quiet efficiency. It's over, she said. But it wasn't just over, it was transformed. Outside, cameras flashed, voices called my name. For once, I didn't flinch. I stood tall, belly forward, Noah steady at my side. I want to say one thing, I told the microphones. For years, I believed I was broken. I let people define me with lies. Today, I stand here as proof. Truth survives. My daughter will be born free of their story, and I will never be silent again. The crowd erupted. Marjorie pushed past, her pearls suddenly heavy, her mask cracked. Seth trailed behind, smaller than I'd ever seen him. Later at home, Noah curled his arms around me, his cheek against my shoulder. The nursery smelled of fresh paint and lavender. I rocked in the chair, hand on my belly, whispering to the daughter who would arrive soon. We're safe, I told her. They can't touch us now. And for the first time in years, I believed it. Because justice hadn't just been served. It had been witnessed. And that is how you bury lies, under the weight of the truth, spoken loud, spoken clear, spoken without fear. The hospital room was quiet, except for the steady beep of monitors and the softer sound of new breath. My daughter's breath. She lay against my chest, tiny fists curled, eyelids trembling as if even in sleep she was fighting to stay with me. 8 pounds of proof. Warm, alive, undeniable. Noah sat beside the bed, his eyes shining in a way I'd never seen before. He traced her forehead with a fingertip, reverent. She's perfect, he whispered. She's ours, I said, and the words were heavier than any verdict, truer than any document. Alice had come earlier, flowers in hand, news on her tongue. The DA was moving forward with charges against Seth and Marjorie. Fraud, forgery, perjury. Reporters were already calling it the Lane legacy scandal. The dynasty had cracked open, and this time the truth wasn't going back inside. I should have felt triumphant, but holding my daughter, I only felt free. Free from the whispers. Free from the weight of biology used as a weapon. Free from a past that had tried to erase me. Outside, the city moved on. Cars, sirens, the ordinary chaos of a world that didn't know it had just shifted. Inside, time stilled. I kissed the crown of my daughter's head, breathed in the newness of her. Your story starts clean, I whispered. Not theirs. Yours. She stirred, opened her eyes just enough to meet mine. For a moment, the whole world fit inside that gaze. Noah wrapped his arm around us both. The three of us, anchored in a circle, that no court, no lie, no dynasty could ever touch. And as the first light of morning spilled through the blinds, I finally understood. They had tried to bury me in silence, but I had grown roots in the dark. And now, with her in my arms, I was blooming louder than ever.